Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be showing you how I make the pieces of slate tile that I use to kind of separate and stack my pleco caves in my aquariums. I'm pretty sure somebody had asked me about this before in the comments, so I wanted to do a quick video on how I make them. I'm not sure if make's the right word. I'm not necessarily creating the slate from scratch, but I'm just going to show you where I source it and how I cut it and kind of clean it up before using it in my aquariums. And the reason I like to stack my caves like this is because it gives my plecos some more space to kind of use the middle of the tank. I use a 20-gallon long aquarium because plecos primarily live on the flat surfaces of the tank. They're not swimming through the open water. So the 20-gallon long has more surface area on the bottom of the tank, but by stacking my caves in this manner, I'm able to now give them more flat surface area going upwards that they can navigate and kind of designate as their territory. Some people use pleco condos, which is kind of an assortment of slate that's all glued together in a permanent fixture of all sorts of little caves that are put together. I don't have anything against those. I'll do a whole separate video on that sometime on why I prefer to stack my caves like this instead of having a permanent fixture like that. But this slate that I do use is aquarium safe. It doesn't, throw off my pH or anything like that. And here's a screenshot of the stuff I use. I get it from Home Depot. I think it's technically used as flooring tile. And don't get sticker shock when you see that price right there. When you go on the website, they only show you the bulk pricing, but when you actually go to the store, at least with my local store, and I believe it's this way with all of them, when you go over to the flooring section and you find this particular section of tile, there's usually an open package or two, and you can just take one 12 by 24 piece. You don't need to buy a whole giant package of them. One piece should give you about 4 of the little pieces of slate if you're working with a 20-gallon long like I am, and it should only be about $7. While you're at Home Depot, you might also want to pick up a Dremel. That's the tool I'm going to be using. Unless you already have something like a wet saw for cutting tile, then you can use that. And the only other thing is a little Dremel sanding tool. Besides that, all the other stuff, a pencil, a tape measure you probably already have. The special Dremel bits, I'm going to put a link in the video description, but those are diamond-tipped Dremel cutting pieces that you're probably not going to find at Home Depot, and then something long and straight like a ruler. That's pretty much everything we need for this project. So one thing I'm going to warn about using these diamond-tipped cutting blades and using a Dremel and cutting this tile is that it's super dusty, like wicked dusty. You might want to wear a mask over your face that prevents you from breathing in too much of the dust, and I would highly advise you do this outside in your driveway, on your back deck. The only reason I'm doing it in my closed garage right now is because it was snowing out when I filmed this, but I got covered in dust. Very dusty. It probably wouldn't be so dusty if you have a wet tile saw, but if you're doing it with the Dremel and the diamond tip bit like I am, then, it's going to be super, super dusty. Try to do it outside if possible. And also, anytime you work with a Dremel, make sure you wear safety glasses. I completely forgot to mention that, but those will be needed as well. I've had the blades come right off before, and you're going to want to be wearing safety glasses. So to start, you're going to measure this long piece out, and you're going to want to measure it into 4 different sections. And I believe each section, because this is 24 inches long, each section should be around 6 inches wide. Although if I remember correctly, I think it was just under 24 inches, like 23 and change. So I think each piece ended up being something somewhere between 5.75 and 6 inches. Just take whatever the total length of the tile is and divide it by 4. And you're going to mark it up, measure it out with your tape measure, make little marks, and then make a straight line across the marks with something straight like a ruler. And that's going to give you your first cutting line. That's going to be your first rectangular piece of slate that you're going to want to cut out. This 24 by 12 inch slate piece here is going to make us 5 smaller pieces that we're going to use. And it'll probably be easier to just mark all your lines out ahead of time instead of cutting, then remeasuring, then cutting, then remeasuring. But you're going to see me here do the exact opposite of what I just preached. I made one line. I'm now going to cut that one line, and then I ended up remeasuring again, but it'll be easier if you just draw all 3 lines for the 4 different sections that you're going to be cutting if you draw those beforehand. We're going to go to these diamond-tipped Dremel bits here. These I got on Amazon, and they are pretty large. They're large enough that they can go all the way through the slate. I had some smaller ones before, and what I was doing was, because they weren't wide enough to go all the way through, I would just cut a groove that was about 3/4 of the way through, and then I'd kind of just not drop the slate, but I'd stand it up and I'd let it fall against a wall, and it would kind of break along that line, but that wasn't a very good way of doing it. So I finally just spent a little extra money and got some blades here that were wide enough and big enough to go all the way through the slate tile. And when I say a little extra money, the 10-pack of these blades was only $16 on Amazon. I'll put a link to that down below, but that wasn't very, expensive at all. So I'm going to fast forward the whole process of me cutting through this, but basically what I do is I make an initial line first along the pencil line, not going all the way through, but just kind of etching a line in the surface, and then from there I kind of just keep going back and forth over that line until I'm all the way through. It's going to get super dusty. You have to be careful not to kind of twist your blade at an angle while you're going through, because once your blade is kind of in between the two sides of stone, if you twist that blade, you can kind of almost twist it off the Dremel, or it'll get kind of awkward. It'll stall out and it'll stop spinning. So just make sure you kind of keep the blade of the Dremel going in the exact direction of the line and don't twist it at all. But it doesn't take more than a few minutes to get one cut done, so this whole project shouldn't take you more than 15 minutes to cut one of these, maybe 20 minutes to cut one of these into 4 different sections. But cutting doesn't take a ton of time. So once we have this cut, we're going to switch over to our sanding bit that I showed you there, the kind of grinding stone Dremel bit. And there's going to be, let me do some quick math here, there is 8 edges and 8 corners to sand down, because each face of this has 4 edges and there's 2 faces, and each face has 4 corners and there's 2 faces. And I guess there's the tiny little edges that go from one corner to the other, the very small edges, so that might technically be 12 edges, but you're basically just sanding down every edge and every corner on this newly cut piece, because the pieces aren't super sharp. It's not like a razor blade sharp or anything, but anybody who has seen 2 male plecos fight knows that they will try to throw each other into anything and kind of push each other into things. So you're going to be best off, for any fish that you plan on keeping in your aquarium, to have some good sanded edges. I just go over them once with the grinding blade. Once I kind of just go over each edge, each corner once. I give it kind of a feel with my finger, make sure it doesn't feel super sharp. But then once I've gone over all the edges and the corners once, and I can kind of feel that none of them feel super sharp, I then move on to the next stage, which is the last stage, and that is the washing stage. So I just have the one piece of tile right here, but if I was to cut up that entire 12 by 24, I'd have 4 pieces of tile. What I do here is I just rinse all the dust off of this, no soap or anything like that. I just use my bare hands, and I kind of just run water over it, brush my hand over it, and kind of get all the dust off of it, and maybe anything else it might have picked up in transit when it was at Home Depot on a pallet. Just give it a rinse this way, and then it's pretty simple. Just get all the edges, get all the corners, get all the surfaces, give it a good rinse, dry it off, and it is ready to go into the aquarium after that. That's really it. It's that simple. Like I said, it's tough to really say this video is me showing you how to make this. It's more me showing you how to cut it, but we'll see what I end up making the video title. But yeah, I usually stack 3 of these in an aquarium, 3 layers of caves, and then on the very top one I'll put a piece of driftwood. And it's just a good way to allow your plecos to utilize the middle of the tank, that open water space that they normally would not be swimming through. It gives them more surface area to swim around on. In my opinion, it gives them more territory in a tank that might not have as much surface area on the bottom for the amount of fish you're putting in. So with that, that's going to kind of wrap up this short little video. If you found it helpful in any way, hit that like button down below. And if you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button for lots of awesome pleco and aquarium videos just like this. And as always, thank you for watching.